And hello, everybody. Welcome. It's been a while. Um, well, what to freaking do? Two streams in a row. All right. So, in the midst of this environment where we have the what on we have in the midst of this environment where we have the FSAS versus Calvin versus OSAS situation. I thought the best way to do the best way to deal with this is to go to a place where most of us are very familiar with, and that is Psalms 14:1. It says, "Full saith in his heart there is no God." By the way, link is pinned in the side chat for everybody to come in, and if they want to come in. So I'm just gonna go first read it at its face, and then we'll go to cross reference after cross reference after cross reference after cross reference, and I guess look into the original languages. All right, because I've read this a couple of times. Well, not a couple of times. I mean, those were that. I mean, that is very much a go-to verse when you're dealing with atheists or non-believers alike. But when they go and do that, uh, we might have there's a problem because now you are assuming another person's ontology and demanding acceptance for that other person to accept your ontology on how you see things. So you have to set your epistemology straight to the guy you're conversing with who happens to be a non-believer in order for him to accept it or grant the premise. However, what I'm going to do, but to me, you know what? This has little to do with another person's worldview because nobody's born atheist, just as nobody's born a Christian. It has to be taught. So, I mean, because I've read this at its face, and it sounds like as if that the natural man is denying something. He's denying. But in what basis does he have for denying such a thing? Like, you'd have to have some sort of apprehension in the first place to even make grounds to deny it. So, uh, and normally this is something that pre-sup apologists would run to. But I guess let's see if it really is pre-sup material. And by negation of this, we could we could parse out if we could parse out the way of thinking that is monergistic, and how you really just can't end up saying that God is doing all the work. I mean, like in a like in a grand scope of managing type of sense, yes, but not micromanaging. It's not like he's got strings attached to your limbs and then he just just does his thing with you. So, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the link is pinned in the side chat if anybody wants to come in. At this point, and I'm gonna be honest. This is this is basically impromptu for me. I didn't really get to. I mean, upon my laziness and priority and other things, I didn't get to read Van Til's work and criticisms, and then in his criticizers, and I just decided to open Bible Hub right away. But you know, anybody who wants to contribute, you can come in. So okay, so I'm gonna read everything here at its face, and I think when they say the natural man, this has to do something more with the flesh or the carnal aspect of man, in which this is the same thing that the Valentinian heretics would make a distinction of between the spiritual man and the natural man. Like there's this sort of duality going on in order to justify their heretical doctrine. And where you do the or like the modern Christians today doing this separation between the fleshly man and the spiritual man. But when you look at Romans 7, you have Paul speaking as a man and making the analogy of man, whether or not he chooses the things of the spirit or the things of the flesh. And prior even to Psalms 14, we also have that distinction in Psalms 1. And anyway, that's besides the point, which is still relevant to what we're reading. So I'm going to read everything here at its face, and then we'll get to the crux. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things. We'll get to the center point of this topic. So may God bless the reading of his word. King James Bible, the natural man. And look, there's already a cross-reference over here. We can look this up afterwards. I also got the Amplified Bible here. I'll be reading two versions, one of which having 7. Oh, they both have 7. All right, so let's start. How come? Wait a minute. Okay, sorry. I mean, there's kind of like a glitch in the system. Okay, so the fool says in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good. The Lord looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that understand and seek God. Keep in mind, children of men is in reference to this. Have all the workers of iniquity no knowledge? Are they this ignorant? Who eat up my people as they eat bread, and call not upon the Lord. There were they in great fear, for God is in the generation of the righteous. Ye have shamed the counsel of the poor, because the Lord is his refuge. On that the salvation of Israel were come out of Zion. When the Lord bringeth back the captivity of his people, Jacob shall rejoice, and Israel shall be glad. Let's take a look at this cross-references. What then, are we better than they? No, in no wise. For we have before proved both Jews and Gentiles that they are all under sin. As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. That's in references to verses 3 and 4 in Psalms 14. There is none that understandeth, there is none that seeketh after God. They are all gone out of the way, they are together become unprofitable. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. None of these people seek God. Their throat is an open sepulchre, being compared to a coffin here. With their tongues they have used deceit. The poison of asps is under their lips, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Wow, shades of Proverbs 1:10 over here. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of peace have they not. No, there is no fear of God before their eyes. Now we know that what things soever the law saith, it saith to them who are under the law. Imagine the same topic of what it means to be under the law. Under the law of what? Law of liberty, or under God's wrath and judgment, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before God. Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight. For by the law is the knowledge of sin. So by negation of God's law, you know what sin is. The simple deviation of what God expects from us and wants us to follow in, that is how we know. I mean, by negation of that is where we draw sin. It's like you look at goodness, it's a primary, and then you make a simple deviation where you have now a secondary evil. And there you have in this verse that you cannot call something evil without at first referencing good. So With that said, let's look at this other one, the other version of Psalms 14, verse 1. But I'm going to still be reading the rest to give, what's this? Reverence. The spiritually ignorant fool, the spiritually ignorant. So this is not someone who doesn't believe in God, has no apprehension of God. This is not one who believes that there is no God in a worldview or an ontological sense. This is someone that is responsible, that has this sort of accountability now in his heart, that now, by apprehension of the existence of the Christian God, and not something inherent to him, but something far along the way, that he has the gall to say something like this after what was presented. There is now a reference as to why he is making this statement of negation, a deniability. So let's take a look further. The spiritually ignorant fool has said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have committed repulsive and unspeakable deeds. There is no one who does good. The Lord has looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there are any who understand or act wisely, who truly seek after God. Truly. Not someone who just has this urge to look for him. That we all look to it's not like this big debate of whether or not people would point to a God, but someone by apprehension of this, like, okay, God is out there, but amongst these people, David is saying here that after all that has been presented to them, they don't seek the Lord. They don't look for him. They don't meditate his words. Who truly seek after God, which also means longing for his wisdom and guidance. So shades of Psalm 1 over here, where it says that his law is in the delight of the Lord. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And he meditates in it day and night. So David here is talking about people that do not ponder on God's words. These are people that don't reflect about God. They don't even think about God and how he operates. Like, simply put, there is no reverence on the spiritually ignorant among them. They have all turned aside. Together they have become corrupt. There is no one who does good, not even one. Have all the workers of wickedness and injustice no knowledge, who eat up my people as they eat bread and do not call upon the Lord? They tremble with great fear, for God is with the consistently righteous generation. You evildoers shamefully plan against the poor, but the Lord is his safe refuge. Oh, that the salvation of Israel will come out of Zion when the Lord restores his captive people. Then Jacob will rejoice, Israel will be glad. See? Like, even reading it on its face, you know that these are not non-believers. Like, these are not atheists or anyone who never has apprehended Christianity. Like, Psalms is specifically addressing folk that despite their apprehension of the Christian God, they don't give him the reverence they deserve. I mean, I guess, at most, they are. I mean, David is speaking of a willfully godless people. Hold on. All right. Okay. And others. You better have one. Oh, look! Augustine of Hippo has something to say about Psalms 1. The 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 inspiration for the OSS doctrines of the past and today. Look at that. But we'll look into them later on. All right, commentary. Let's see. So let's look at here. There is more. Let's take a look at Guzik's and the homiletics of pulpit homiletics. I think it's down here, I guess. It's pulpit commentary. John Fossey Brown, Lange commentary. Let's take a look. There is a richness of these things here for laymen's like myself. Okay, B.I. McLaren has a lot to say about this. The character reasonings and folly of the fool. Character reasonings. So basically, according to George Townsend, the denial of God and his existence is more of a character problem. Something that people want. So they willfully ignore God, living life as if he does not exist. Kind of like me sometimes, huh? I hate when somebody points out, but it's for my own good. Anyway, let's see what Ellicott has to say. So what is the usage of fool here, Nabal? So from a root meaning to wither, hence flat and insipid. But this is not therefore speculative atheism, see? This is not atheism, but practical, a denial of the moral government of God. So see, this isn't someone who makes the positive claim that there is no God. I mean that's a paradox that I'm not going to explain. Like they don't hold to an adherence of not a denial of a God, but adhering that there is none that exists at all. That is radically different from denying God. All right, an atheist the atheist would stand on the positive assertion or the stance that there's absolutely no God. That is a positive claim. But now if you put denial, if you replace that statement by adding a component of denial, then that is a radical statement, because in the midst of that apprehension, he now has reasons to deny such. Because an atheist in the first place believed that there is no God at all, but that atheist isn't much of an atheist anymore, because now in order for him to deny that there is a God out there, he would have to apprehend the existence of one in order for him to try and debunk it. Now, I don't speak for most atheists here, but what I'm doing here, atheists and Christians that find this video, that Psalms 14:1 verse 1 isn't exactly the precept material that you think it is. Because David is addressing another kind of people. It is godless folk that, despite their apprehension, the willful ignorance of the tenets of God and his commands, this is what he's referring to. Let's read. So this isn't speculative atheism, but practical, this is a practical type of denial after apprehension of God's moral government, be it small, be it big, or be it eye-opening. They now have a place, or they now have a foundation as to start denying. They now have a primary as to make negation, as to say as to say that there is no God at all, or that there is no God. They have done abominable works. They have made to be abhorred their works. So look at this. This is not someone who doesn't, this is not someone who didn't, this isn't someone who accepts or apprehends an existence of God. This is someone, the one described here is a spiritually ignorant, wicked man who thinks that pretending that the Lord God doesn't exist would excuse him from all his wicked deeds, or that he will pretend that there will be no judgment of his wicked behavior just because he pretends that he's not there, or he denies that he isn't there, or just goes about it as if God never existed in the first place. These are people who live their lives as if they never apprehended God in the first place, or they have no degree of apprehension to it whatsoever. Okay, they now have a primary foundation as to why they now have a primary foundation as to why they could, as to how they could deny the existence of God in order to carry out their wicked behavior. This isn't an atheist. This isn't a skeptic. This isn't an agnostic. But if they're going to be an agnostic or an atheist after the fact of this apprehension of God's moral government, which means, by the way, they are now aware, then they're not much of an agnostic or an atheist after all. Because again, an agnostic takes the stance that the existence of a God is a mystery. Atheism is the stance where there is no God at all, the stance where there's absolutely no God at all. But when you start talking about the denial of an existence, that's a completely radical statement by itself. Because here you have David talking about people, whether in their hearts or whether within their hearts, and they communicate out of the abundance of their heart, their mouth speaks. You have David here talking about people who are willfully ignorant to God, willfully ignorant of God. Like they have a basis as to deny his existence. They have a basis as to why they can behave irreverently towards the Lord. Okay, this isn't an atheist or a skeptic or somebody that doesn't know whether or not they should apprehend the existence of a God. This isn't someone who is in the brink of becoming an. This isn't somebody who is impendingly becoming a theist. No, this is somebody after the apprehension of God's law and judgment. That is the foundation that they have to deny the existence of a God, to carry out their wicked deeds. All right, this is something that they have, and use this deniability to justify being irreverent. This isn't now a monergist or somebody along the lines of one being a Van Til precept would go as far as to say that the belief of God, or the belief of a God at least, because I'm trying to be charitable, is inherent. But here you have David talking about people who deny in their hearts that there is no God, or even at the abundance of it, through their mouths, they deny there is no God. These are people that have a apprehension of God's moral judgment and God's moral law. This is now their, I had to repeat this because this is important. They now have a primary as to start denying something. Like, you cannot deny something you have no apprehension of. Now, in the case of a Christian versus atheist debate, if the pre-supper is going to say that the atheist is just denying God's existence, then in some small way, the atheist is not, and in some small way, technically, the atheist is not much of an atheist at all, because now he accepts the premise, or grants the premise, or grants and accepts the existence of a God. So not much of an atheist at all. Otherwise, he would have no basis to deny it. But again, atheism is the worldview where people make the stance that there is no God at all. That is a positive claim. So, given that, it is up to the pre-supper or the Christian polemicist or apologist to deductively or inductively justify the existence of the Christian God. Which means, if he was going to do that in the first place, then he knows that the atheist or the non-believer, as a matter of fact, have no apprehension. Which means now there is something for the pre-supper to prove. Because if you're going to start denying something, you admit that you have an apprehension of the thing that you're denying. You now have a primary. You now have a place where you can draw a point of negation from that thing. Now the monergists are gonna now a pre-supper, well, not a monergist, but at this point, a pre-supper would say, well, the belief of a God, or of an apprehension of a God, is just inherent, and you're just denying it. But then in some small ways, that is shifting the burden of proof of the pre-supper to prove that is shifting the burden of proof of the pre-supper on the atheist, which, by the way, according to their worldview or their perspective or their negative God view that there is no God at all, you have to supply inductively or deductively the existence of a God. Because in their stance that there is no God at all, they have no apprehension, not even a place where they could draw something to apprehend the existence of a God in the first place. So to simply shift the burden of proof of them by just saying that they're denying it is you now assuming that the atheist isn't really much of an atheist anymore. Hence, nuclear strength apologetics, you force your ontology, you force your apprehension of a God on someone that has no apprehension or reference point to apprehend the existence of a God in the first place. That is why it made sense for Smokey in his debate with Darth that you are not to presume for the unbeliever to accept your epistemological standpoint until you give some justification for it. We haven't even gone beyond Ellicott's commentary. And guys, come on, you know what I'm talking about. You have an atheist An atheist, that means he believes there is no God at all, which also leaves him no reference point as to begin apprehending the existence of a God in the first place. And for you to take precept and dig your burden of proof shifting fingers into his perspective, it's ridiculous. To dig your burden of proof shifting fingers against someone that has no apprehension of it in the first place, which means it falls on you to either deductively or inductively prove that there's a God out there. It's double-tongued, man. And of course, it's unfair for the unbeliever at the same time. You are beating an ontology into the mind of someone that has no reference point to your ontology in the first place. Okay? And if anything, that is not how evangelism works. That is why you guys start with gospel tracts. You guys start explaining why Christ came from the heavens to save humanity from their trespasses. All right? You, in many ways, you are either now inductively or deductively trying to prove the existence of a God. Well, the Christian God, for that matter. So to simply force your worldview by digging your burden of proof shifting fingers against the non-believer is rude. It's unethical, and it's double-tongued. The unbeliever has no reference point to even start at all to have an apprehension of an existence of a God, and then you have the gall to say that he's just denying it. Wherefore I say that Psalms 14:1 isn't exactly the gold standard precept material that you think it is, because this is talking about the image of when an atheist, or non-believers for that matter, that looks at another Christian and acting contrary to what is expected of him. And you expect them to believe you when you're acting opposite to what you preach out there? This is what Psalms 14:1 is. These are is all about. David is calling upon the frauds and the hypocrites. Not calling upon. He's calling out the frauds and the hypocrites. Not speculative atheists or skeptics or agnostics. Because now in the second clause, because now in the preceding clause, or because now in the succeeding clause, he describes these people. The fool says in his heart, there's no God. What kind of fool? The kinds of fool who run to their wicked ways. Hence, to do something like that would be to deny reverence to the Lord. This is no different from your Proverbs 1, from your basic Proverbs 1, verses 10 to 14 warnings about these wicked people who run to evil. Godless. And you cannot call someone godless in the first place when they have no apprehension of any sort in the first place, because they're atheists. All right? Asserting that there is no God and denying the existence of a God are two radically different statements. You cannot force it. You have to You have to reason with it. You have to reason it out. Hence the beauty of hermeneutics, the issue on how you're going to communicate based on what you apprehended, which is the third fundamental law of communicating what is revealed in Scripture. You don't just get to open your book and then read a couple of verses and think you're good. You have to do your due diligence. And no, I'm not asking you to go out there and be a genius. I'm saying, like, you do realize that this text was not written in English, right? So you can't just take it casually. And you do realize that these are the words of a living God, right? So why don't you show some respect and give it the amount of study that it deserves? Moving on. In his secret thoughts or within himself, what he is afraid or ashamed to utter with his lips. See, these are people that deny God. See, because they wouldn't be saying that there is no God in the first place if they had no apprehension of a God in the first place. Atheists don't have that standpoint. I mean, even going as far as to say that they might end up saying something like, is there even a God? Like, this is not something integrated into them yet. Or at all. Because in their world, a God is something inconceivable to them. So why the hell now would you take this verse and say that the atheist has an inherent belief in God and say he's denying it, when in the first place it was inconceivable for them? This is why I don't understand that some people would use atheism to deny the existence of a God. An atheist has no conception or finds it inconceivable the existence of a God in the first place. And once again, for you to dig your ontology, to dig your burden of proof shifting fingers into the mind of an atheist, forcing him to accept your ontology or epistemological standpoint is rude, unethical, and double-tongued. Which is why I don't understand why pre-suppers think that this is such a magical go-to verse to step on the neck of the atheist. Like they sell it like atheist destroyed, atheist destroyed, atheist destroyed, skeptics annihilated, criticisms debunked. Like they just sell it because they know it's utter bullshit. And to think that you speak in behalf of God while carrying things that are fucking worthless, you would have to think to yourself, wow, I'm a complete fucking idiot. I should go back and repent. Well, I brought worthless things. Well, I dragged the Holy Spirit into things that are worthless. Things that are unsound, unethical, and rude. Unreal. We're supposed to listen to them? I mean, they've got to be the poster childs for evangelism, right? You don't have to tell them about the gospel. You just have to tell them that you have an inherent belief of God. You just denied it, even if at birth nobody has that kind of apprehension or inherited apprehension in the first place. Considering that such things have to be taught, have to be indoctrinated. Anyway, so here's Benson giving the hermeneutic behind the statement of there is no God, or none that concerns himself with the affairs of mankind, none that governs the world and observes and recompenses men's actions according to their quality. So by the standard of their wicked living, and by the way, why would they even think themselves wicked in the first place if they had no apprehension of a higher power judging them from above? And a fool indeed he must be who says or thinks so, for in so doing he speaks or things against the clearest light, meaning that these spiritually ignorant people know in their hearts and have apprehended in their hearts to begin with that there is a God out there. These are not atheists. These are people that are aware and accountable against his own knowledge and convictions and the common sentiments of the wise and sober. Wait a minute. Why does this sound like believers at the same time? Believers professing to have Christ, to be in Christ, and to follow him, yet in their ignorance, to make seemingly weightless their transgressions, all they have to do is do it as if God isn't watching. I mean, you would have to have some sort of apprehension to start even thinking that way, right? Indeed, no man will say there is no God till he is so hardened in sin that it is because his interest should be none to call him to an account. This is a true reprobate right here. He willfully digs himself into sin, drunk in his trespasses, that he has no semblance of spiritual sobriety to call upon the Lord anymore. And you know what this also sounds like? This sounds like the state of affairs of the prodigal son when he left this. Excuse me. Hold on. So this is like the prodigal son. I'm sorry about that. But this is like the prodigal son, right? In the drunkenness of his trespasses. Like, at least at one point he came to his senses and, oh, look, my life is crap compared even to the lowest slaves in my dad's house. At least they have a better state of affairs than I do. So I hope that when I get back there, at least he'll welcome me back even as the lowest amongst the lowest slaves, right? Because after all, their state of affairs is way better than mine right now. Food, shelter, clothing, warmth, you name it. Not being succumbed to the elements out here because my slave master doesn't give a crap about me. This is a spiritually, willfully ignorant man that would deny God's existence, acting in irreverence to start doing the things that please him, especially when they're wicked. This is why people run to idols in the first place, because it's not that they see that there's power in these idols. No, it has more to do with the satisfaction of their tickled ears. What Paul says of idolaters is equally true of atheists, however. Okay, so Benson here. Their foolish heart is darkened. However, However, Clement of Alexandria does say, kind of shares this sentiment too. I mean, you're not really an atheist, but if you're being an atheist, you're just doing it to do bad things. Well, I really can't say for the rest of the atheists because in their worldview that there is no God at all. Not that they're denying it. It's just that in their position it guarantees no apprehension of such whatsoever. So they have no starting point or a reference point to even start apprehending the existence of such a thing. But when Clement of Alexandria was talking about the atheists of his time, atheists of their time, engaging in real idolatry, then maybe they're not real atheists at all. But they're just people who run to this so they can just do what they like. Their foolish heart is darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they show that they are becoming fools. Okay, so Benson is kind of a pre-supper here. Utterly destitute of true wisdom, as devoid of reason as of grace. They are corrupt. There is none that doeth good. Right? What about Barnes? The abolitionist. The word fool is often used in the scriptures to denote a wicked man, as sin is the essence of their folly. Sin is their foundation. They love sin. So they will act irreverently. This has nothing to do. It has little to do with them being atheists or being a non-believer. It's that despite the fact of their awareness, they carry on anyway. So they carry it out as if God doesn't exist in the first place. For the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. He may not have said this to others. He may not have taken the position openly before the world that there is no God. But such a thought has passed through his mind and he has cherished it. And such a thought, either as a matter of belief or of desire, is at the foundation of his conduct. He acts as if such were his belief or his wish. The words there is are not in the original. The literal rendering would be no God, nothing of God, or God is not. The idea is that in his apprehension, what I'm saying a while ago, there is no such thing as a God or not such being as a God. The more correct idea in the passage is that this was the belief of him who is here called a fool, and is doubtful whether the language would convey the idea of desire. So he lets his desire basically give him the idea that, hey, no one's watching. The great guy above is not watching. They are corrupted. Well, that would cause you to have some kind of starting point in the first place, now would it? Okay, finally, let's see here. I don't think we have to go elsewhere. I don't think we have to go elsewhere. It's just take a look at Lange. Okay, Lange doesn't really have much. Oh, wait. Well, we can look into this one, the exegetical and critical. It's the character and composition. Okay, but first let me take a look at Guzik's study Bible. We go to Guzik isn't really that bad. It's just other languages. Where is the Bible app? Okay. Oh, here it is. Psalms 14, and I'm sure there's a commentary already. Okay. You can't deny something you have no apprehension of. That's basically it. That's the fundamental core essentiality of this. Like, why would they have to deny anything in the first place when that existence of the thing, why would they have to deny when there's nothing to deny in the first place? Spiritually ignorant men. Irreverent. Practical atheism. That despite this, they just, they're not really atheists, but they're practically so as to select what? Okay, then there's no God then, because of the judgment that might come to me. So I'm just going to pretend that, I mean, he can't be out there. He can't be out there. He's not going to judge me anyway. Kind of like that thing where you are frantically withdrawn. Okay, atheism is here depicted, which goes beyond even that of Psalm 10. It's not atheism as a whole, but an atheism, a sort of atheism, which after the apprehension, they deny God. So they're not really atheists, but they are atheists for very stupid reasons. What is there to deny? If there's nothing, what is there to deny if that thing that they're supposedly denying are saying that he doesn't exist in the first place? So there's this. It's not much of a double negative. It's a contradicting statement based upon their apprehension. Here, his existence is not only denied, but denied in the very depths of the man's heart. So when he figures out that there is a higher power that would judge him, he then turns to deny his existence. Throws him out. If anyone denies me, then the Father will also deny them. And when Jesus said that, it isn't someone who has never seen him or had a starting point to apprehend him in the first place. No, it's someone that has seen him and has felt responsible. Yet, despite all that, and in the blatant, clearest day transparency of the one who apprehended, he then still has the audacity, by the wickedness of his heart, wrought by deceit and desperation, all of a sudden he's now an atheist. The psalmist regards such a state of mind as indicative of the utter perversity and folly which is implied in the term fool. Literally, they have corrupted themselves. Their atheism is accompanied by deep moral corruption. We have no right to say that this is always so, but the tendency of atheism is to relax moral restraints. It's indisputable. They have done abominable works. So, in result of this practical atheism, or the type of or the fact that they run to atheism to relax moral restraints, because of this, they now have done abominable works. Now, this is the kind of atheist that just remains an atheist, so he can continue sinning. But this is not a real atheist. This is not atheism in general, but the atheism of the spiritually ignorant fools is the result of their apprehension of God's law and judgment. So to carry out their wickedness, they just pretend he isn't out there. That is their atheism, not the atheism not atheism in general, where a God is inconceivable in the first place. That's their stance. That's real atheism, not the atheism that just suddenly appears after the fact of such apprehension. Some people will even call that deconstruction. But not all deconstruction amounts to just wanting to sin more. No, people have reasons for deconstruction. Can be the environment, can be the people that carry this sort of ambassador title for Christ. You know that stuff. We're still responsible. And to use Psalms 14 verse 1 merely as a scapegoat is unfair, and it's rude and unethical. Okay. Now I'm just going to read Lange, because I have elaborated enough. Its character and composition. This is talking about Psalms 14. Verse 1. The previous psalm gave expression to a vow of thankful, heartfelt joy on account of the deliverance from the danger to his life, which he had entreated. In Psalms 14, verse 7 of this psalm, all the people are summoned with the assurance of compliance. The future is used as a gessive to rejoice over future deliverance from threatening ruin anxiously longed for, and this springs from a description of the religious decline and moral corruption prevailing among men. In this respect, this psalm has a similar subject to Psalm 12, verse 9. Of course, we cannot derive from this fact that these psalms were surely composed by the same author in Psalm 14, verse 7. Might seem to imply later time. Most recent interpreters since Venema actually refer to the captivity at Babylon, Hitzig, at the same time to the prophet Jeremiah as author. Since in the Maccabean period, which is Paulus, First Psalms, Sennacherib, and with Theodoret, David. It is uncertain whether, okay, so here it is. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to read here. The etymology of Nabal leads to the idea of withered and without sap, usage to a spiritual dullness, barrenness, and worthlessness, in contrast with the religious freshness and moral ability of the truly wise man. The expression does not refer to intellectual weakness. The perfects in the first 5 verses do not focus us to a purely historical interpretation, whether we leave the person undetermined or think of Nebuchadnezzar, Sennacherib, and the Assyrians, or find here the proper name Nabal, the husband of Abigail. There are clauses expressing experience which presents the thoughts of the fool, how he manifests himself constantly and everywhere. But the fool saith in his heart, it is the secret thought and delusion of his heart. It is likewise not exactly a fixed theory or an understood and conscious opinion, but a disposition, which puts itself in practice and is inferred therefrom, even if it does not say anything, an atheism of heart and life. Corrupt, abominable, they make their doings. The two verbs placed alongside of one another without a connecting particle intensify the idea of badness, which is not necessarily contained in the noun. The plural shows that the author from the beginning had in mind not an individual fool who was to be regarded as an exception, but he first gives the characteristics of the class, then describes the conduct of individuals belonging to it. The first verb awakens a sad remembrance to those acquainted with the scriptures, but the same words appear first in Genesis 6:5 and verse 12. In the description of the corruption which preceded the flood, and is frequently used in the scriptures to designate the apostasies of the Israelites. So see, these are not real atheists, but these are people who turn to practical atheism to do what they like, to do what they like, driven in sin, and therefore getting drunk, and therefore subjecting themselves in the drunkenness of their sin, which leaves no room for sobriety. Hence, the spiritually ignorant. To designate the apostasies of the Israelites from the living God and the sacred ordinances of his covenant, which so frequently occur. Yes, because many times God delivers Israel. Israel becomes self-sufficient as if they don't need a God. So they are these fools that say in their heart there is no God. I like, once again, you cannot deny something that you have no apprehension of in the first place. Like, what is there to deny or be in denial of when there is no object for such in the first place? See that? This is not exactly the golden. We'll do a part 2 in this one. This is a lot to consider. But this is eye-opening, because now we're not supposed to look at this verse and think that this is like some sort of immediate push of a button shutdown for the atheists. No, these are not real atheists. Okay, these are not people who make the absolute stand that there is no God at all, or anything, or even the conception of a God is impossible. Okay, these are not people that deny it. These are people that do affirm this, given that there is no starting point for them or reference in the first place to start even apprehending such. Because atheism isn't merely the denial of a God, it is the absolute asserted perspective that there is not one to begin with. With that said, there is David in Psalms 14, verse 1, talking about the willfully ignorant people who believe that they don't need God anymore, who would turn to idols to satisfy their wicked lifestyles because it tickles their ears. Now, let's see what Augustine of Hippo, the drawn inspiration for Osassers and the Osass doctrines of this modern time, has to say. What to the end means must not be too often repeated, for Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believes, as the apostle says. We believe on him when we begin to enter on the good road. We shall see him when we shall get to the end, and therefore it is the end. Therefore is he the end. And then the fool saith in his heart, there is no God. For not even have certain sacrilegious and abominable philosophers who entertain perverse and false notions of God. Ooh, shades of Romans 1 over here, turning the image of the uncorruptible God into things corruptible. And for them to do such a thing, they would have to have an apprehension of God's existence in the first place, right? Dare to say, so people that entertain perverse and false notions of God dare to say there is no God. Therefore it is hath said in his heart, for that no one dares to say it, even if he has dared to think it. They are corrupt and become abominable in their affections. That is, whilst they love this world and love not God, these are the affections which corrupt the soul and so blind it, that the fool can even say in his heart there is no God. This is more of a character problem, not an intellectual, not a mental, not a worldview problem. This is more in the issue of a character problem. In his heart there is no God, for as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, oh look, shades of Romans 1. God gave them over to a reprobate mind. There is none that doeth goodness, no, not up to one. Not up to one. Up to one can be understood either with that one, so that no man be understood, or besides one, that the Lord Christ may be accepted. As we say, this field is up to the sea. We do not, of course, reckon the sea together with the field. And this is the better interpretation, so that none be understood to have done goodness up to Christ. For that no man can do goodness except he shall have shown it. And that is true, for until a man know the one God, he cannot do goodness. Which is another entirely, entirely different topic again in the letter N. But you know what I'm talking about, guys. It's just the focus of Psalms 1, thinking that this is just some push of a button shutdown when it comes to a does God exist debate between a Christian and an atheist, or generally just a theist and an atheist, stuff like that. But today we know that these are just wicked people turning to practical atheism to carry forward their wickedness, in which I think an atheist probably listening to this would say that these frauds of the faith people are just atheists for very wicked or even stupid reasons. They're not really atheists, considering they already had an apprehension of such. These are people who turn to atheism and identify themselves as atheists to just continue sinning. But then again, that doesn't go for the general public of atheists. People have their own. A lot of people have their own individual reasons for being atheists. But the kind of practical atheism being expressed here in Psalms 14, verse 1, doesn't speak for the general public of atheism, but these are wicked people turning to atheism to carry forward their wickedness, as if to lessen the weight of their transgressions and the judgment of God towards their acts. Well, anyway, that's I've basically said enough. So, if anybody wants to come in, link is in the side chat. It's pinned, and if anyone, or if I don't know, like I guess, or if you can't find the link, I'll gladly post it again. I'll gladly comment it there again. I'll write it down. Oh man, I can't talk right now. I mean, I've said what was needed to be said already. So I mean, case in point, you guys can come in. I've said what I needed to say now. So yeah. So you guys would like to comment about that? Maybe I'm butchering the verse. Maybe I'm butchering what is being communicated to us and fellow believers, I guess. Maybe you want to say something about it? Mm. Do. Oh yeah. Speaking of the topic, let's go play a classic. So hold on. Candace at the time was in the room, so yeah, just the trivia. That's it. I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna go grab a beverage and something to eat. Let's. I'm gonna go grab something to eat and perhaps a beverage upon my return.
To you guys in the
Man,
West.
my audio is so bad here.
10:32.
Well, I'll go as, but at least it's far better than my audio right now because I was wearing headphones. So, yes, that counts for something. I'm gonna let this play, and I'm gonna go grab something to eat and a beverage in my return. I'm just gonna let this play.
We're 10:33 in the Philippines right now in the evening. And we're just about to get started. And don't worry about it, folks. I have prepared. StreamYard is malfunctioning. Oh no. Okay. How come I can't hear the audio? Hang on. Let's see. Audio.
By the way, I'm gonna start adding people in. I just adding people in. So while I'm gone, just hold, just stand by in the background, and upon my return, I'll add you. I'll add you inside.
Okay. Virtual background, camera. Man, I'm new to StreamYard. Is there a way that I could actually... And it's loading again. Gosh darn it.
Go ahead.
Is this Darth with like a slightly higher voice or something? Your diction and cadence is almost... This is, why are you doing this here? This is a bizarre thing. How did you even end up here?
Yeah, I'd like you to answer my question.
Okay. All right. Go,
All the
go
most
ahead.
mysterious ways, man.
Go ahead. Pitch your question, Darth. Go ahead. Go ahead. All right.
You objected to what I said. Are you presupposing that anyone is being neutral?
Sig, what I'm saying is that you are presuming the worldview onto the other party, demanding them to accept it, operating from there as your argumentation. My point is that if you get them to accept the base level of the presupposition, you don't even need the argument.
I didn't hear an answer to my question.
Okay.
You want me to repeat the question?
Go ahead and repeat the question. Go ahead.
Okay. In biblical presuppositionalism,
How's that? Like, I need some help here, guys. Like, how is the feedback doing good there? I can't seem to edit the I can't seem to adjust the volume on this thing. Or maybe it's because I'm wearing headphones, so it's only available to me. But I like just can anyone in the comments tell me that this is good enough? I really put
start
this in
in
full
the
volume.
apologetic by starting with God's revelatory actions, okay, as our apologetic. Now, clearly that's a non-neutral position, but are you under the belief that anyone is neutral in these discussions?
I guess I'm not really understanding what your question actually is, Darth. But forgive me for that, because maybe I'm disagreeing with some of the premises inside the question, perchance. I mean, we understand that the atheist tends to deny the validity of the revelation. Like
I'm not hearing an answer to my question.
Well, I'm trying to, Darth, but I think the problem is there's premises inside the question that are making it loaded that I'm
No,
having
it's a
a
very
hard time
simple
actually.
question. Do you
It's
need
not.
me to repeat
It's
the
not.
question?
Darth, you
You're
say
just
it's a
running the
simple
clock out.
question. You say it's a simple question, but you tend to not do that. Like I said in the video to you, you tend to ask these questions of asking us why tomatoes are purple, and then you have an issue when we're not able to give you an answer.
Yeah, I'm just hearing obfuscation here. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Darth, I understand what the question is. What I'm trying to explain to you.
What was the question I asked you?
Premises is
What is the question that I asked you?
Well, you want me to? I have to quote it specifically, verbatim, back to you now.
Okay. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Oh my God!
You remind me of that Duncan atheist. That
it's him.
It
yes,
is?
That is him. Yes, that is the same guy.
I hear it
So
in
do you
his
need me?
tone,
Do you need me
in
to
the way
repeat
he
the question?
talks. He talks like he's interrogating
You said biblical presuppositionalism. I don't know what that means. So why don't you start
Okay.
there and define
Yeah.
that?
The Ventilian biblical presuppositionalism, in terms of an apologetic, always starts with God's revelatory.
No, that's what you said in your
Now.
question. What I need you to
Right.
do.
Now,
You said a
okay,
premise.
hold on. I didn't.
It
hear
is
the
him.
answer to my
I
question.
remember that. Hold
Listen to-
on. I remember that.
Now-
Yes.
Now, what I want to know, I'll repeat the question that you are dodging. Are you presupposing?
By the way, based on what we said and based on what I've said, and even in the abundance of scripture, there is no such thing as biblical presuppositionalism. Such is because of the tenet that said, such as because of the tenet that they believe that people have an inherent belief of God. Okay, there's no such thing as biblical presuppositionalism. That is just something that they conceived out of their wonky hermeneutic of Romans 1. Okay, there's no biblical presup, not even in scripture, not even implicitly stated that there is such a thing. being taught in there. Well, Boki, you just read Psalms 1. Yeah, then we just talked about people who aren't atheists to begin with. These are wicked people that run to practical atheism to carry out their wickedness and their lifestyle. All right? These are not atheists. These wicked people, despite their apprehension of God and his moral government, these are not atheists. Okay? Nowhere in scripture would tell you that anyone has an inherent belief or inherent apprehension of God. Save Jesus, apparently. I don't know. But still, none. No inherent apprehension of the Christian God there. Nowhere in scripture says that. And if you're going to run to the very verse that we've looked into deeply and claim that, then you're not listening. You're not.
Supposing that anyone in this discussion, whether they be atheist, theist, Christian, unbeliever, whatever, are you presupposing that anyone is neutral in this discussion, or that we should start neutrally?
Okay, define neutral.
You don't know what the word neutral means?
I know what the word neutral means, but do you mean epistemologically neutral?
Why can't you just answer him instead of
Ontologically-
wait? Why can't you
Okay.
just answer him when he say define neutral? Why do you have to throw it back at him? Just answer it.
Because a teenager should be able
It
to
doesn't
understand
matter.
what the word
Just answer
neutral
the
means.
fucking question. Just
Yeah, are you
answer.
trying to run interference for him?
No.
Are you fighting
I'm
for him?
just saying.
Then
I
then
hate
you
it.
should be quiet.
No.
then.
I
It is
hate it
his
when you
show,
throw.
Darth. You know,
Yeah,
it's
So
his
you're
show.
just, I know it's his show, but all he's doing is white knighting.
Now, I'm sorry. Now, I'm getting the feeling that you guys know how Darth operates now. Because when things don't go his way, or when you don't meet his demands, he begins to throw hissy fits. And he likes to go, and I think he likes to, I think he doesn't know where he's at. Okay? He's literally coming into a show, he's literally coming into a room which isn't his. And then when they don't, and when they don't give what Darth wants, he starts throwing a hissy fit. And when Darth is a moderator and he starts throwing a hissy fit, he just server mutes somebody because they wouldn't accept his demands. But what is the equivalence of both scenarios? Well, if things don't go his way, he goes to Clubhouse or wherever he can hide to make a circle jerk full of his cronies and expects them to actually freaking, I don't know, circle jerk or just, rub his thighs in the medial section. I don't know, just giving him a pat in the back, just saying that, look how I dismantled these dumb atheists and that superlatively lost Christian, where I don't know why he hasn't subscribed yet to our nuclear strength apologetics. That is what he does. He just likes to revile and slander people when things don't go his way and we don't give him what he wants. And if I don't, or you don't, be it atheist or Christian that strongly disagrees with this methodology, or actually thinks that he's just nothing more than a male embodiment of a Karen, I'll tell you this: you're basically dumb, a heretic, a devil, a deceiver, and all kinds of all those colorful names if you don't agree with him. That's Darth Dawkins for you. Anyway.
No, I'm not
I
white
disagree.
knighting for
Now,
anybody.
I
I'm wondering
still like an
why
answer
you
to
can't
my question.
define the components of your
Okay,
question.
when I say
Darth.
neutral, that
Darth,
we're not starting
I've now
from an
asked you to
ontological
clarify two different premises of your argument,
Yeah,
both
yeah,
of which
you're
you
just
deny.
obfuscating.
Okay.
Ah!
Now, when I say, are you presupposing that anyone is neutral, that any of the parties in question are not starting from an ontological starting point or commitment? Are you presuming that?
I will presume that everyone does have an ontological starting point.
So
Absolutely.
nobody's neutral then, right?
in terms of having an ontological starting point, I would say no. No one, well, everyone is neutral in that sense that everyone has a
Okay, so we're
potentially
starting with
neutral starting
God.
point.
They're starting with not God. Do you start with God's revelatory actions or not?
I do.
Now, so far that we read in Romans, they are starting. It's not as simple as it is, Darth. Nobody just starts with God and not God. Some actually start with a de facto God, as what has been revealed to us throughout Romans 17 onwards. That's as far as what we read. But I don't think you want to acknowledge that, so that you will have reasons to still argue for your bankrupt precept method. Anyway, let's continue.
Because
Well,
I
then-
believe the revelatory actions. I believe the revelatory actions
Okay.
actually took
Must
place.
we start with God's revelatory actions in order to have any intelligible facts?
Not, I don't see the connection of that argument.
So are you saying that you don't start with God's revelatory actions in order to establish facts?
Well, I do, but I do also because I believe the revelatory actions. Again, you keep dismissing this part of the problem, Darth.
So
That
are you
the
catering
atheists-
to the unbeliever's starting point when you reason with them?
Yeah, absolutely, I would say I am. Yes,
So
I would be.
so you're capitulating that there are
I
brute
would
facts.
be. I would be engaging what I would consider.
So what
acts
you're
in
doing is you are
standard of
conceding to
apologetics.
them that there are some brute facts.
I am conceding that based upon our philosophical position in this world,
When
that
you try to
absolute
reason to them,
knowledge, that absolute knowledge.
I'm not hearing a clear
Can
answer.
you let
here.
him
What
finish?
hearing
I'm
is
trying to
rhetoric.
talk, Darth. I'm trying to actually explain
Are you
my
conceding
position.
to
Let
them
him
any brute
fucking
facts?
finish, dude.
See, this is what Darth does. He has a script. He wants you to answer the questions in his
See,
script.
you're dodging.
If you
Yeah.
try to,
Darth, he's not dodging. The only reason why you're talking right now is because he knows that if he gives you a proposition and that's something you can't even elucidate in defense of your methodology, the only thing left for you to do is to demand acceptance of your assertions. See, all you do is shotgun people with assertions. Gentleman with a mustache, what are you talking about? I haven't. Gentleman with a mustache, what are you talking about? I don't even see. Somebody came in with MM with my face in it. I don't even. Anyway, they don't like me, so they're going to strike me. But anyway, let's just continue.
explain or you try to go outside his script, he has emotional conniptions like what you're seeing right now.
I'm not having
Because
an
his
emotional conniption right
narcissism
now.
will not permit him to actually
Okay,
engage
now
in any
here
type of
comes. I
actual
want the
adult
viewing audience to
conversation.
know now.
He's like,
come the
now
personal
let me
attack.
talk over him so he doesn't say some stuff. Let me talk over him. Let him. If you're interested in the truth,
Darth, this is why the only
Guru, no, that isn't Tom Rabbit. That's not him. That's not him with the mustache. That's actually Vince. He goes by the name of music analyst in YouTube. And according to Smokey, it's been a while since he chimed in, I guess. But I think I don't know where he's at right now. But the guy's good. The guy's all good, right? I think he's a Christian. Anyway, where were we?
place you can get any semblance of actual functional conversational respect is inside that dank, disgusting.
See now, more
sewer pipe of a
personal
Discord
attacks rather
server.
than answering the question.
Well, it's not personal, Darth. It's simply an observation.
When
of the
you
nature of things.
appeal,
you may
I'm asking you a
dislike it, but
question.
truth is
Do
generally
you need me to repeat
unsavory.
the question? You're dodging.
Darth, your questions, like I said in the response to you, sir, is that your questions are almost intentionally nonsensical. I
Okay,
understand
do you need
how
me to
your
repeat the
perspective,
question?
Darth. You don't
Are you going to
want the
answer my
answer to the
question or
question.
not?
Darth, you
Are
don't
you
want
going to
the
answer
answer.
my question or not?
You don't want the answer because the answer doesn't
So you're
fit
not
your
going to
script.
answer the question. So the viewing audience knows that you're scared to
Yes,
answer
the
my
viewing
question.
audience knows I'm scared, Darth. That's exactly what they're going to get.
Well, then
from
why
this.
are you
Congratulations.
obfuscating?
Good for you. Do you feel good about
Okay,
yourself?
so when you approach an
You've acted
unbeliever
like a real adult,
apologetically,
Darth. That's good. The audience
when
saw it.
you
Oh, the audience
approach
is
an
happy.
unbeliever, when you approach an unbeliever, when you try to conclude God, do you leave God out of the first or second premise when you conclude therefore
No,
God?
I don't leave the gospel out of my apologetics like you do, Darth.
No, that's not an answer to my question.
Sure it is.
When you attempt to reason syllogistically with an unbeliever, is God included in either the first or second premise when you conclude therefore God?
Not every single one of hold on.
God is real. Just look around you. How do you think all this shit got here? Say it
Okay,
seriously.
I didn't hear an answer. We have interference here. So
You see, even somebody who isn't as articulate as our beloved theologians can actually recognize the disgusting nonsense that Dart presents. He actually demands that you accept his circular reasoning. That just shows you how much of a kid Darth is. But are you sure, Darth? Are you sure you want to further continue to embarrass yourself this way? Do you want to claim that we're stupid except you? Dunning, Kruger.
somebody is running interference.
You tell him,
Now,
Melis.
do
Husband.
you start with God in either the first or second premise when you
I don't-
conclude therefore God with an unbeliever?
No, Darth. I don't start with God, and I don't know how that's a reasonable.
Okay, then it's incoherent. Then you cannot conclude with God, my friend, because then you would be establishing a premise that exists without reference to the necessity of God, and that would be called a brute fact. In a God world, can there be brute facts?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what philosophical direction you're trying to take with that, but
Okay.
you ran past a lot.
Do you
of
know what a
things that you
brute
don't
fact
agree with.
is? Do you know what a brute fact is?
It's a statement of undeniable truth.
No, you're not understanding. A brute fact is a fact that exists without any ultimate identifiable basis to it.
Yes, it's
So then-
undeniable.
okay, so
It's like law of identity.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Darth,
Do you start with any fact? Okay, let me try to explain it to you, all right? And
Darth,
I'll
we can
simplify this
operate
and I'll
from
keep
the
it
law
short.
of identity. This is where you
Okay,
don't get it.
Smokey,
The
Smokey,
atheist
please
can
don't
operate-
overtalk me. No, I'm gonna ask you.
You're
I'm
just not
trying
letting
to
me clarify anything.
something
You just
to
wanna-
you because you're
Who
overtalking
is
me.
you
All
to
right.
say about
There goes that famous line.
Can
Don't
you
overtalk
present
me,
any
Smokey.
fact? When you present a fact, it will either be a created fact or it'll be a brute fact. An uncreated fact, by definition, will be a brute fact. So when you approach an unbeliever, do you invoke created facts or not created facts?
I don't.
I say look
Darth-
around you.
My world is not that particularly stark and black and white in terms of that.
So when you bring
epistemological
premises
approach.
to the unbeliever,
I don't.
Are they
Darth, I
created
don't
facts
always
or
bring
not created
premises to
facts?
the unbeliever. Again, you're talking about
well
something
then,
that I don't
then
always.
how can you
engage in.
conclude
I'm not a
God if you're not
presuppos-
bringing any premises?
Because Darth, again, you won't let me explain. So I don't know why you're even asking the question. I try to explain to you, and then you stop me and say I'm wrong, and then go on your diatribe again. What do you want me to answer or not?
I'm waiting. You're just obfuscating.
Well, then let me answer and shut the hell up.
No, I'm
Okay.
listening.
If you
won't
want to
answer.
know, I deduce or induce inductively or deductively to the existence of God, then I can operate back from there. I don't presume for the unbeliever to accept my ontological starting point without giving them at least some justification for it. You see, the
So
thing
are
is,
you presenting
you
to
ignore.
them?
Can I
I'm
finish?
still waiting for an
Can I
answer to the
finish?
question.
Can I?
Hi, Candace. Glad of you. Hey, Candace. Glad of you to join us. Well, rather glad of you to join me.
Hey, Boki. So this is the first time that I think this is the first time I saw you're doing live, but I didn't know that you actually would like I only saw the link that you put out today.
Are you presenting?
Finished Darth? Holy crap, dude!
Are
You
you
such a
presenting to
child.
them creative
are
facts
such a
or
child.
And he's
uncreative
50
facts?
years something old.
Unbelievable.
You're 50 years old.
You
dude.
can't even let me finish my freaking response.
Well,
Darth. You are
because
such
you're
a
not
shame.
addressing my question.
No,
I
dude,
want to
you
know,
are a
do you
shame
present
to
the unbeliever?
apologetics
Do
and
you
even
present to
human
them
decency.
created facts or brute facts?
I present to them a presuppositional starting point between the two of us.
That's not the question I asked.
Okay, I don't know, both. Darth, how about both, depending on the
Well,
circumstance?
that would
There
be
you go.
that would by definition be incoherent. Smokey.
Okay, by your definition, which you have not yet
No.
substantiated.
Okay.
Smokey, hold on. You liar, evolution false, Darth, or whatever the fuck your name is. Didn't you say that you were Christian?
I am a Christian, yes.
Is he a Christian? Is that true,
That's up,
Smokey?
that's up to debate.
Yeah, because
Now, Smokey,
I don't feel anything
you
Christian about
reason-
this guy.
When you read
Anything.
to God,
He
as
doesn't
the
even need the
conclusion,
gospel. He doesn't even preach the gospel.
Listen,
he never talks
listen,
about
He
I
it.
preach
sounds
the
like a
gospel every
miserable
day on
fuck.
Discord. Now,
Ignores
Smokey,
it. He's
I'd
a
like
sick,
it. See, this is what you
mental
do. You just
degenerate
become argumentative.
moron.
I want to
Sits in
know.
his house and yells
I
at
would
atheists
like to
all
know.
day
See, you're
and
running
doesn't
the
know when to
clock
step
out.
away from the.
See, I'd like the listening audience to know this is what Smokey does. It's a legitimate question, and he runs the clock out. Now, when you
Do you hear that? Do you hear that slandering, reviling language that he brings when he has a hissy fit?
Yeah,
he
I
doesn't
think that,
like to be talked over, but at the same time, he's complaining about being talked. He doesn't like to be talked over. He complains about it, but at the same time, he talks over people. That sucks. Oh, by the way, Erica, no, that was actually music analyst laughing. Oh, Darth.
yeah, I think this was one of the first videos I saw on Smokey's channel, which was
My sentiments exactly. It's the same thing. This is the first thing I watched in Smokey's channel video. Yeah. By the way, God bless you, Candace. Thanks for coming in here. I did sure you some company here too.
Wait, and so Boki, let me get this right. Darth is for precept, while Smokey is not. Am I correct?
Smokey is not a precept, but in this video, he tried to utilize precept in order to deduce or induce towards the Christian God, because he states that he has to they won't be able to grant a premise for the Christian God until Smokey is able to give a justification for it. He has to give him reason as to why should I grant the premise of the Christian God. He's trying to answer that. But Darth doesn't recognize it. Darth is just simply demanding acceptance of the premise. That is why he with that kind of language where he says, do you start with God in the first, second, third, or fourth premises? Like, it took me a while to understand it, but you're gonna find out that it's just not how that works, Candace. You don't just hammer people into accepting a God premise or a God claim without actually justifying it first. Because the atheist or any other person who holds a different epistemology than we do won't see it that way. They won't look at it that way. So we have to justify it first. To put it simply, they won't grant our perspective until we justify it or give good reasons for it as to why they should grant it.
Okay, I might need to do more research on this, because as you're explaining, I was looking in Wikipedia about precept suppositionalism apologetics, and it basically said that that believes so precept believe that Christian faith is the only basis for rational thought. It presupposes that the Bible is divine revelation and attempts to expose flaws in other worldviews, which I believe Smokey would align. But I guess I'll have to definitely dig deeper. But yeah.
And go, yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, beautiful. All right, thanks, Candace. Just remember this, Candace. You can do that, but don't hammer it down. You have to make it more sophisticated. That's all I can tell you. But yeah, I'm glad that you're showing interest in this subject. So shall we continue with the video?
Yeah, and actually, before you do, I just want to say, like, before I really like, I feel I wasn't a true Christian because I was pretty much feeling like it was about my empirical experiences. It was about my spiritual experiences with God, while I actually wasn't familiarizing my myself with, you know, apologetics stuff. And so honestly, like, yeah, I definitely would have to do more research on this. And yeah, go on.
I mean, you don't have to get into apologetics to be a Christian. There's many more. Some are called to be faithful, serving Christians, and some are called to be defenders or polemicists of the faith. So don't worry about it. But I'm really glad that you're actually showing some interest in apologetics. So yeah, I can give you that one. So yeah, let's continue with the video.
Okay. Thanks, Boki.
You present premises
There's no
followed by the
clock.
conclusion, therefore God. Are these premises created facts or not created facts?
It depends on the worldview. It depends on the
No,
worldview.
worse
well, you're
than
not
Biden.
From our
understanding. A
perspective,
fact will
from
either be
objective.
a created
Okay, I'll answer you,
fact
Darth.
or an
Objectively,
uncreated
hold on,
fact.
Darth. Objectively, as in factually, outside of our reality or perspective, they're brute facts. I'll give it to you. They're brute. Okay, but the naturalist will not view it that way. So you
Okay,
just
do you understand what I mean by
demanding
brute
them.
fact? I don't.
Yes.
I need you to
Darth.
understand. I gave a definition of what a brute fact is earlier. I just want to make sure that we're on the same
Yeah,
page.
that you're an asshole.
Brute
That's a brute
fact
fact.
Is a brute fact. A brute fact, in the manner in which I'm using it, a brute fact is something that exists without ultimate reference.
God is your only brute
Okay.
fact, Darth.
Okay. Now,
Is
so,
God
good.
your
so
only
when you
brute
present
fact?
when you
Is
present
God your
premises
only
or
brute
facts,
fact? Can you answer one of my questions?
God by definition would not be God by definition would not be a brute fact. Okay.
Okay.
Now, when you
Why not?
reason with unbelievers
sounds
in
like what
your
you just
Christian
defined.
apologetic, okay, the premises that you lay out, they will either by definition be created facts that God must exist in order for there to be facts, or you're going to present brute facts that have no identifiable
That's
reason why
true,
they exist.
Guru.
Yeah, and see,
So
there's your
those
problem.
facts and premises
There's the
that you
problem.
present
There
first,
it is.
are they
There it
they
is.
brute facts or not?
I'm not
brute
going to
facts?
answer that question because I disagree with everything you just said, Darth. Like
Okay.
this is the problem. Like you don't even let me even stop you with some of this crap you're
Well-
spewing out there, and then
Well,
you ask
facts
me to
would have to
respond to
be
it.
facts would
Okay.
either have to be brute or not brute
Darth,
facts.
Darth, you don't understand how the naturalist starts their ontology. How does the
Okay,
naturalist?
I'm asking-
I've answered
asking
your
you.
questions. I've
No,
answered
you
your
didn't
questions
answer it. I did not hear an answer to my question.
because
When
your
you
question
lay
is
out-
unanswerable, Darth.
When you lay out premises,
It's
are
why
these
is the
facts
sky
that you
purple?
lay out,
What do you mean you
When-
can't answer me?
well,
It's such a simple question.
are
Why is
these-
the sky purple?
when you lay out facts and premises, are they presented as brute facts to the unbeliever or not?
No, I would say they're not. I would go ahead
So
and
then, by definition, they would be created facts.
sure. I guess let's go ahead and go with that. I'll go ahead
Okay,
and follow
so
you on your
so
next
then,
step.
in order to present created facts, which are the premises, then you would have to start that God exists.
I don't follow.
Well, then a created fact is a fact which is instituted and secured by God's existence. Otherwise,
That's
it
just
is
how
a
you're
brute fact.
defining it, Darth.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this a little bit. You see, Darth, by his methodology, he defines brute facts not the way it's supposed to be defined. What he's doing is that he's doctoring a God claim into it. Now, I don't have a problem in establishing that God is the source of all brute facts because I believe in the power of our Lord God, our Savior Jesus Christ. But at the same time, it would be nice that if there would that to have some fair grounds. We should stick to what the word essentially means. That definition of what it essentially means, not our interpolations towards that. The guy is a freaking wacko. He's defining words in a sense that would benefit him. Now I wonder what he'd label me if I tried the same game that he's playing right now, other than the fact that he's just going to call me a troll. And the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not actually done extrapolating or dissecting through this methodology that Darth subscribes. We have plenty of English expositories and exegeticals to see this. Now for the exegeticals, because the New Testament is written in Greek, I'm gonna ask Dr. Kenny for help. I'm gonna have him collab with me. I'm gonna have to have him exit his ASMR insults for a bit and help this spurging little hobbyist theist in the internet decipher the Greek in order for me to actually get the proper context. But anyway, going back.
So when you present premises or facts to an unbeliever in order to conclude with God, are these facts brute facts or not brute facts?
You keep asking the same question now.
Because I haven't gotten a straight answer.
Yes, you have, Darth. I told you. I approached them on their epistemological worldview, not mine.
Okay, so you are granting
this is the difference between
there are facts.
This is the difference.
You are granting to them. So let me get this clear.
I will grant
you
them.
are granting. Can I finish, please, without you ever talking to me?
No, because you're gonna shove in my mouth what I grant them. Is what you're.
So are you granting them that there are one or more facts that exist without reference to the necessity of God?
3 more minutes, man.
Oh yeah, we're gonna send the
Are
new
you
one.
doing that?
Yes, I would say yes. I for the sake of their.
Well, that's unbiblical.
For the sake of their worldview, yes, because I'm trying to be.
So then you are granting them something that is not.
No, Darth. You know what you do? You take Romans 1, you shape it into a club, and then you go and beat the crap out of people.
You are acknowledging.
Hold on, I came back, some fried fish, spices, and sausage too. That's what I came back from. Let's look at another supposed classic. Let's see now. I'm gonna do something the ass cold hates. Oh no! Look where I am! Oh no! Go ahead and yell.
I said at least parts of reality.
Okay, talk about the non-material parts.
When I say at least, I'm not claiming I know of the non-material parts.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's the number 7 in reality?
It's called.
Crisis of Infinite Smokies. I'm watching Smokey review.
Hello.
I'm watching a Smokey's stream reviewing his stream in Kevin's stream. Crisis of Infinite Smokies right here.
I picked a bunch of Calvinists. Yeah, that fucking makes sense.
Let me walk you through the most.
See, that's the grand thing. By the way, do you guys notice? I want you to pay attention to this too, because you're gonna come across some of these KJV onlyists. They're hyper fixated on the idea that this is the only true word of God. It was translated perfectly. Brandon will even tell you it improved on the original communication. made it more clear, made it, better word choices and all of that. It's a big old huge thing to them. They love all that. They love all that. Oh my God. These people, the KJV, and this is the thing to remind them of because they forget this. Okay. You come across a KJV, I'm willing to bet with a probably 90-ish% probability that if you come across a KJV only, they're probably going to be anti-Calvinists. Now, I know there's someone in this community who's KJV only who is a Calvinist. I'm telling you, that is rare. That would be Amicus. Amicus is Calvinist and KJV only. That is incredibly rare. Haven't come across that very often. Usually you come across a KJV only, they are going to be anti-Calvinist. And the incredible irony of that is that their book was translated by predominantly Calvinists. And there's arguments to be made. As Charlie Michaels will tell you, as I've told you in the past, there's plenty of arguments to be made that the King James translation is absolute trash, and it is. It absolutely is. It is infused with monergistic Calvinism in its translation and soteriological verses. We've proven that time and time again. The King James English tradition, I'm not talking about now the book itself, but the tradition that the book started in terms of Western English translations is toxic and foul and has crippled and crumbled the very soul of the communication of some of the core doctrines therein, particularly around soteriology, and has allowed the emergence of these foul, profane, theological bastard children like Free Grace to emerge. So the stain and horror of Calvinism is all throughout history. The King James Bible is a bequeathing of this perverse, satanic, filthy legacy and has led to countless problems and issues in interpretation and heretical splits. I don't think this is actually the one I'm at. I'm going to have to go back to the show. But
Fucking hell.
see if Kevin's even
Very politely not to bring me back because I was asking too many awkward questions.
Precondition for suffering, and is it separable from the existence of suffering?
Oh, yeah, now I remember. Yeah, this is where me and this is a DK. He's kind of an agnostic type guy. We had a pretty decent, long conversation, oddly enough, about epistemics and justification and, the idea of a God universe and stuff like that. That was actually interesting. Miss G, welcome. I haven't seen you around. Thank you for popping by. Very much appreciated. Anyone wants to join the show, remember the link is in the side chat. I do have it pinned. Okay, so this is the wrong one. Apologies for that. So it must be the one before that. See, this is last night. And there's that one. So this must be it here. All right. Let's take a look at this one. They get to where JG, where I can see JG in here, and they're responding.
I drive a Ferrari.
Video. There's JG.
Cabriolet.
And there's Kevin. There he is.
I have a ridiculous house in the
Rotten
south.
little rat. And yeah.
Discovered the laws. God's the law giver.
Okay, so you can see, here we go. So now we're going to begin here, folks. They're going to be reviewing my video. And my video, that was basically reviewing epistemics and ended up leading into Van Tillian style apologetics, which ended up being part of the critique. Screw the KJV. Okay. It is demonically infused. I have plenty of arguments to support that. And what is wrong with you to defend a book written by a bunch of perverse religio-political warriors trying to leverage and kidnap and pervert a supposed ancient holy text to stand for their disgusting, foul, monergistic tradition in obstinance to the synergistic Catholic Church? How dare you defend this foul, perverse, demonic tone and the perversions of soteriological truth that were contained in the original text? Shame on you. And if you grow a spine or a sack, the link is in the side chat if you would like to join the show and think you can make a case for your foul, profane waste of paper book. What is this? Ben is here. Let's see, Ben. All right, Ben, I don't know you. So I'll bring you in here. Welcome, Ben. Introduce yourself.
Hey, what's up, man? It's from CK channel.
Oh, okay. Oh, Ben, yeah. Hey, man. Oh, geez. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
I'm doing good, man. I just came up the second that
interpretation at all. I would love to hear how he thinks he found this incredible, unsubstantiated, never before really considered strong epistemic warrant that he can infallibly trust his perception and interpretation of things, that some things don't require interpretation at all. You literally interpret everything. You interpret light impulses, you interpret perceptions, you interpret viewpoints, narratives, statements, stories, you interpret dynamics, social situations, you interpret everything. You have to. It's a necessary component.
Yeah, I remember that statement where that statement from Kevin that he said it ended up saying that there's some things in the Bible that don't require interpretation. Well, here's my question. If they don't require interpretation, how do you end up communicating how do you end up giving an elaborative answer as to what is being communicated in the supposed no need for interpretation verses that you seem to conceive in your head? You have to, because when you read the Bible, you don't get to isolate a verse and think you're going to get a definite meaning. You have to interpret, as Smokey says, everything
of reality. Everything you see, everything you talk about, every situation you find yourself in requires some type of interpretation of the world around you, what's being said, what's being communicated. It all requires interpretation. Even understanding the words out of someone's mouth put into a form of sentence and syntax requires interpretation. There is nothing in reality that doesn't require it. And the fact that Kevin stands on such an insanely stupid position, there you go. Yeah, no bannings. No bannings. No bannings. Just 24-hour timeouts. Remember, no bannings unless I give the word. I don't want anyone banning anyone. We're going to do that unless I give you guys the word. 24-hour timeouts. Just listen to me. Mods, you shouldn't really be using your wrenches mostly unless I say so anyway, unless you're already part of the inner circle. But yeah, no, even the inner circle knows to generally check with me first. Don't just be hitting the thing. They can click the link if they want to join. So the idea that you might even think you could hold a position that you can read things or perceive things or understand things with absolutely no personal interpretation is insanity. Pure insanity. Oh, did he get banned? Oh, okay, hold on. Let me go in. Hold on. I'll take care of it. Where are we here? All right, well, let me play this and I'll go deal with that and get the unbanned situation doing there.
Tiv number 7 out there floating around.
Can I point to it? No.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Can you tell me
Does
where
it
I can go
exist, though?
find it, maybe?
I can maybe, but I'm trying to figure out from your
I'll
worldview where
take
the
care
hell
of
it
it.
is.
Not a big
Well,
deal.
if you could just show us where that is, it could change our entire worldview. If you would just tell us where objectively the number 7 is in reality.
Well, in a sense, yeah, that's the idea, right? Like to get you to challenge these ideas you're holding.
Right. So can you tell us where the number 7 is objectively? I just want an answer. Are you capable of a fucking answer?
I'm not going to be interrupted by Will Freeman over and
You
over.
were just now. I don't know if you missed it.
See what I mean?
Why you gotta be obnoxious?
I'm making some soup.
I want an answer.
Thank you guys.
care
Thank you,
what
Side Chat. Thank you,
I
Mom.
know you don't have one. I'll be quiet.
Presuppers don't have answers.
Look at this,
to
a little bit,
questions.
do a little light reaction. I'll be right back and grab myself.
Smokey, did you
Good time for you to run, JJ?
That's true.
Yeah,
And
I think
you know,
JT's
Smokey, when I pre-sup reality, they really hate that I don't have the answers they don't have for their own precepts.
Oh, isn't it funny how that works?
Smokey, you were saying in the video that you can just posit any god to argue against a pre-supper? Why do you think that's not
Even
dishonest?
possibly even some non-gods, I guess. Well, I guess it depends how you want to define God.
But don't you realize that the whole idea of
Attributed
God-
mind or just ultimate reality or something like that. I guess that's up to you.
Yeah, but don't you understand the argument is trying to have an honest worldly discussion, not posit something else? Like ask.
No, there's nothing honest about precept. There's nothing honest about it.
So when you're dishonest,
In fact, one of the more
so
beautiful,
what, are you gonna be like
one of the
Freeman
more
where
beautiful
I can't talk,
dishonest
you just
moments.
interrupt? Is this the same thing? You're just gonna
I
interrupt?
would like to elaborate on my answer about particularly about highlighting one particularly dishonest moment.
Go ahead.
If you're gonna allow me. So remember when I posited the Cartesian demon thing, and you're like, well, if you do that, then you have to defend it. And that's hypocritical and dishonest because you don't do that. You get to presuppose your deity, and it just needs to be accepted. And there's no defense needed to that deity whatsoever. It's just presupposed, and yet you demand it as something that would have to be done on the other side, that once they presuppose a deity, they'll have to defend it, which you don't do, nor do you claim you have to. So that's hypocritically dishonest. That's a good example.
I think if your interlocutor didn't have an argument or was refusing to get into ontology, epistemology, and ethics, sure, if that was the case, and then they were requiring that of you. But typically in the Christian worldview, talking about transcendental categories, the transcendental argument is assumed, you know. So if you want to go ahead and posit in something else to
I mean, the very method that Darth goes by, and especially the fact that it's a script, I can hear shades of the tug argument, the unique greatness argument, or the argument of whatever. It has to do something with the uniqueness. But you know who else can do that with Darth's script or methodology? A Muslim can do that. A pantheist can do that. So I don't know what else you want from me.
Well,
tag isn't precept. Precept might be a kind of tag, but tag isn't precept.
Okay. So if you want to argue against it, you're going to need epistemic justification, right? You're going to have an ethical system that tells you that you ought to follow that, which is true. Again, those things are going to be necessary, aren't they?
I will have to use some epistemology to reason to some sort of ontology like that anyway. So I'm going to have to engage my epistemology to even isolate any type of ontological worldview to begin with. So I need an epistemic starting point, which is not going to be ontological.
What is it going to be?
Axiomatic, circular, or reductive.
Well, if you say axiomatic, then what happens when people don't see things the way that you see it? I mean, that's the crux of your position. They say, well, it sounds good. You laid it out nice, but
the
I
state
don't.
of affairs for fallible agents, JG. Sorry you don't like it.
Seems like I can't finish thought.
Oh, real quick, Smokey. JG, that's what happens when I give you reality and you have your little tism. That's
Well,
what
no, we
happens.
just have different realities.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. You have a reality with a God in it. You just don't acknowledge the reality before God.
No, it's not a reality with a God in it.
Oh yeah, it's even in the Bible.
I'm saying God is the creator of
Right in the very right in the very first part of Genesis.
Well,
in the beginning, assuming a place and time, then they put there was God.
Okay.
Yeah, even they understood that there had to be a reality logically for there to be a God. Okay, so say it right now. You have to logically have the reality
Stop
first.
talking to me, dude.
Do it. Just acknowledge it. It's in the Bible. Acknowledge my position. That's my whole position.
I mean, I'm
Very beginning of Genesis.
interested in you, bro. I'm sorry.
Okay, I guess you deny the Bible. It's fine.
I'm surprised he doesn't just do the typical answer of the ultimate reality is God. I don't know why he doesn't just.
Oh yeah, you were saying.
Well, he's done that with me before. Then I pointed out that makes him a pantheist.
Smokey, you were saying ultimately you're going to rely on axioms. Is that right?
I said everyone's epistemic starting point is not able to be deductively or infallibly justified. So it's going to be axiomatic, it's going to be circular, it's going to be reductive, or you could take Agrippa's side and claim it's dogmatic. I don't know, you pick. But
on your particular,
nonetheless, your epistemic start, you're not going to be able to figure out anything to do with ontology about reality without first engaging some epistemic unjustified starting point, which is why Kevin's claim of, and by the way,
so the reality argument Cerberus has, something he's been using for many years. I'll give you guys the quick defeater for it because it's really not actually that hard. It's not quite as clever as all the Christians seem to be, forced to kind of almost think it is, because they don't really have that type of ontological understanding to really kind of address it. There's some things that are incapable of being ontologically independent, as in they can't exist of themselves. Okay. Their existence is a byproduct of the existence of something else. Reality is one of those things, kind of like darkness. Darkness is an absence of light. Its ontology is based upon the existence of light. Okay. The definition, what it is, can only be defined or understood in contrast to another ontological category. Okay, so it does not have the ability to be ontologically independent. Evil is the same way. Evil is the absence of good. You can have good without evil. You cannot have evil without good. See, it is not ontologically independent. And reality is also not ontologically independent. In order for reality to be real, there must be something that is real. There must be something that is real for there to be reality. Therefore, i.e., in that situation, would have to be God. And the pantheism argument doesn't follow because there's no requirement for God being the ultimate reality to create a reality, a subset reality to himself that does not have to actually be a part of him. So it's not a very complicated argument to defeat when you understand the ontological categories, that there are some things ontologically that cannot stand independent of themselves, that need reference point of other ontological categories to define themselves. Reality is one of those things. Reality can't just be a thing with nothing filling it. It wouldn't be reality. There wouldn't be nothing to be real to talk about reality being a thing. There must be something that is real for reality to be a thing. Reality is not ontologically independent. It refers to something. It has to refer to something that is real for reality to be a thing, therefore leading to the ultimate God. You have to have something to fill that reality. Reality itself cannot just be its own independent thing. So that is typically how I see it. I don't think it's a great argument, but he'll twist a lot of Christians around in it because they really don't know the understanding of different types of ontological categories, independent and contingent or dependent ones. So that to me was never a very good or convincing argument. Hey, Kincaid, welcome, buddy. Thanks for stopping in. How you doing, buddy? Been a minute. Sorry I missed your call the other day, man. Hope you're doing good. Yeah, succulent hot dogs. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, but I'm surprised you let him get away with that, claiming that he can know things infallibly. I was really shocked. Let that slide.
I mean, through the word of God is what he said.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, but don't you interpret through your fallible reasoning what is being communicated there in the word of God? which is why you all get different interpretations of this infallible revelation.
That doesn't work because not everything requires interpretation. There's some things that are plain.
Everything. Did you just say there are things that don't require interpretation? Are you actually that brain dead?
Well,
are you
Smoke,
actually
you're
that?
gonna have
You
to
think
justify-
there's
you're gonna
nothing?
have
You
to-
think there's things in reality you don't interpret in your fallible perspectives?
Look,
Do you see things as an objective agent like God does?
In Colossians 1:17, when it says, "And He is before all things, and all in Him all things consist," does that require interpretation, or
What does that have to do with what I just said?
Yes, Kevin. That verse requires an interpretation. Every verse requires interpretation. You're reading an interpretation of English interpreters who read an original text and interpreted it to carry the meaning that they thought it carried. And you are now reading their interpretation, interpreting what is there. Yes, thank you, Johnny. Yes, it absolutely does need interpretation. Thank you. Thank you for catching that point. I'm glad not everyone is as retarded as Kevin. Thankfully, this doesn't have to be this painful and insane that there's too many people that believe that Kevin thinks that there's things he can read that require no interpretation. Thank God. Thank God, that seems to be relatively easy for everyone else to figure out. I don't know why Kevin has such a hard time with it. Oh, what's up, Chaos? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm just, just same stuff, different day.
Yep, same stuff. Well, we're moving through some garbage precept script here. Did we hear Kevin say that he thinks there's nothing that requires, there's some things that just doesn't require interpretation? See, even here.
Come on, man.
Let's use this. Were they big tears or tiny tears? Was it a long period of time or a short period of time? Did it have any substance to do with his hypostatic union or not? Does it show something about his state of deity over his state of manhood or something else? You see, yes, Kevin, even this needs a shit ton of interpretation. In fact, you even have to interpret why the hell you think that statement is even there. You have to interpret all of it. There's dozens of angles of interpretation that you have to take from any type of communication. You are one of the dumbest bastards I've ever come across, Kevin, that you actually don't know this very, very intrinsically simple and basic part of human epistemology, that literally everything requires you to interpret it into meaning and value. Even the language itself, even to know what the words mean, to correlate them to do any type of actual communicative value of carrying any thought or truth proposition requires some type of interpretation. The language itself it is in requires some kind of interpretation for meaning and value and definitions. Can you believe the chaos? Chaos, I need you to take this for a minute and tell him from your own angle how insanely stupid he is. And I'm going to grab my drink. I'll be right back.
I can't believe what I'm hearing, man. Please tell me you're joking. Please tell me he didn't actually say that. Please tell me you're joking. Wow. I am.
All right, I guess I made my points and I set out to do what I wanted to do right now. I guess I'm going to go take a nap, guys. So I'm just going to say thank you for watching to some of you here. And if you guys are watching this on the Vibe and you made it to this point, I just got to say thank you. Then, of course, my closing. Peace to Christ be with you. Don't take your salvation for granted and take your sanctification seriously. Jesus Christ is the true Shogun. My name is Saint Samurai, and I'm signing out in 3, 2, and 1.